Greetings, everyone. So if you're on our last call, I'm John, U.S. Director of Development with Peace Direct, and welcome to our quarterly Inside Peace Direct, a conversation with supporters. So we recognize that this year continues to be difficult for everyone, but it also provides the opportunity to make meaningful changes in what we do to create a more peaceful and just world. The heroic peace builders that Peace Direct and you support are all doing their best to continue their important work. Now, before we get started with the presentation, I'd like to walk you through some basic Zoom guidelines. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, you have two options. So number one, the bottom of your screen, you can click on the chat icon and write your question. Number two, you can click on the participants icon and click raise hand if you'd be interested in asking your question via voice during the Q&A. We will read a handful of questions submitted and call on a couple of people that have raised their hands during the Q&A. Also, just to let you know, we will be recording tonight's presentation. Now I'd like to introduce you to our U.S. Executive Director, Bridget Moines, who will be presenting this evening. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, John. And we're so thrilled everyone's here. I'm Bridget Moix with Peace Direct US here in Washington, D.C. So happy to see people joining us from a number of different places around the country. Thank you for being here. And we're thrilled to have this conversation with you. We have an exciting program tonight. And Christine, if you want to just bop to the next slide, I'll go over the agenda for us. So we're very happy that we are welcoming not only you, but a new round of interns here with Peace Direct in the US, and we're going to be very happy for them to introduce themselves to you in just a minute. Then we'll spend a little bit of time with a colleague, Monica Curca, talking about our responses and the work that she's done with a coalition called Plus Peace and her own work with peace activations in response to the protests and the racial injustice and the racial justice movement that's underway in the US now. We want to update you on a few things that have been happening since our last call, which include a rollout of our Digital Inclusion Fund, and we'll tell you a little bit about that, as well as other areas of work around peace building and technology, which has become such an important area of our work and in supporting local peace builders around the world in these times. And then we'll talk to you a little bit about the work we're doing around changing US policy, as well as other work here in the US around supporting peace builders. We, of course, want to have your questions and discussion, and so we'll leave ample time for Q&A and tell you at the end how to get involved with us. So please go ahead, Christine, to the next slide. Great, thanks. So as you all, I'm sure, have been moved by the remarkable movement of protests and uprising around the country in response to the killing of George Floyd, the latest in a long line of continued police brutality and killings against Black communities. We at Peace Direct have been looking at how do we respond. So I just want to tell you a little bit about what we did in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, and you'll hear a little bit more about ongoing work in how we link the work of supporting local peace building with the work of supporting racial justice. So just after the killing of George Floyd, we joined with many, many other organizations and groups to issue a statement in terms of what was our stand in response to the situation. On the slide here, you'll see a few excerpts from our statement, which is also online at our website. And really, we wanted to join in support and solidarity with recognizing that there can be no peace without justice, and supporting communities who are at the forefront of the situations of violence and oppression in our own country and all around the world. So really thinking about how do we stand in solidarity with and support local peace builders, not only around the world, but here in the US, and the communities who are most impacted by violence and war, which are Black and brown communities here in the US mostly. So we did issue a statement. We also had a number of communications that went around from our CEO Dylan Matthews, who some of you may know. And he was sharing, as a person of color leading a peace building organization internationally, he was sharing some of his own experiences and his response, both personally and thinking about how the peace building field really needs to transform ourselves to ensure that we are addressing the systemic racism and oppression that exists in our world and in our own field as well. So go on to the next slide, Christine. So building on that, I want to invite Monica Curca, our speaker, to join us and turn her video on now and introduce her. She's a dear friend. You can read here a little bit about her background and the work that she does. I met Monica, I'm not sure when, Monica, it's been a while now, but probably around the time that her organization, Activate Labs, was a finalist in our Peace Builder Awards in 2018, I believe. And actually, as a peace builder in the US, her organization and the work that she was doing with Activate Labs, it was the first time that Peace Direct had a US finalist in our global awards. So Monica and Peace Direct became fast friends, and she has since then taken on the role as interim director of the Plus Peace Coalition. This is an international coalition of peace building organizations, which is working to lift up peace building and activate more action in support of reducing violence and building peace around the world. And she'll be telling you a little bit about that. So Monica has since then become a neighbor and dear friend, and I'm just so happy that you're here with us, Monica. Thank you for joining us and spending some time to talk about the work you've been doing in response to the racial justice movement. And so please, I want to welcome you and ask Christine to go ahead and take down the slides.
Hello. Should I unmute myself?
You're good.
Let my voice be free?
Yes, your voice is free, please. So go ahead, Monica. Tell us a little bit about your work and what's been happening.
Yeah, so I think that question of how do we respond has been something that's always been on my mind. As an organizer in the past, we always had a toolbox for responding to more things that have, are timely and urgent. And in peace building, what I found was there was a lot of programmatic, but also it was hard to create a space to respond. And so with in the past with Activate Labs, we me and our team, we saw that that there is actually something really important that we can respond to. And so we started something that we called the Creative Trauma Healing Spaces. And so with that, we went to the border, we went to Mexico City, we went to the separated families, and we actually joined the caravan in various places and supported them with these open spaces where we did singing and karaoke and dance parties and art and all kinds of different modalities. And we called it, we're bringing ingredients for joy. And that was during the migrant caravan when a lot of us were kind of wondering how should we support. We also supported with protective accompaniment and other ways since. And so we had this toolbox of support. So when this latest round of violence against Black communities in the United States came up, and police violence, let's say, we initially we weren't gonna, we didn't really think that way, but actually I brought some of my posters to a march where until Freedom DC was there, and they were like, wow, what is that? Oh, what do you do? And so we started talking, and they asked if we would, do what I was just explaining, the peace activation. So at their invitation, and that's kind of one of the things that we always look into is to really do a peace activation, is for an invitation. So we went to Black Lives Matter Plaza with a big coalition with Peace Direct and the Plus Peace coalition, about 6 different partners. And there we created a space for joy. So we did drum circles and big banners that I draw, and Claire, another artist, drew together. We both drew it, where people were coloring it in, and we did dance parties and different ways to show up. So the idea was really we wanted to take up space for peace, where it's a public space that could be politicized, that it could go towards violence or peace, we said, you know, in this way we could take up space. And so we just did our third one on July 4th, and we called it Interdependence Day. And Christine was there from Peace Direct, and it was again a chance for people to be able to respond. I know we have a video, so I do wanted to show the video, if that's okay. John or Christine, I think, has it. Yeah. You're on mute. Yeah.
Christine can pull it up. Thanks.
Yeah. Let's show the video, because then I think that'll give us a little bit more context to what I'm talking about.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
We are here.
We are here
In defense.
in defense
Of Black lives.
of Black lives.
All Black lives.
All Black lives.
All Black lives.
All Black lives.
Come on, interpretive man. You can't breathe. Can't breathe. Can't breathe. Can't breathe. Can't breathe. Justice. 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 Justice.
The question was like how white supremacy has affected my life. And as a white woman, it's not only made me realize just how hard my Black brothers and sisters have had to work against everything that they're having to put up with based on our laws, but just how ingrained racism is in all of our systems and how deeply it touches every single person that lives in this nation.
White supremacy has definitely impacted just my everyday life. Every day I get up and leave the house, it's impacted me because I have to make decisions to not just keep myself safe, but try to keep everyone else around me safe.
And one of the most important things people can do to dismantle it is to confront the fragility of those who are unaware of their privilege. There are a lot of people walking around here acting as if everything is equal and there's a lot of equity amongst us. And we know that's not to be true.
It's beautiful to see this in our nation's capital, right here, right in front of the White House. We're all out here celebrating life. And I'm going to read this next one. This person, white supremacy is your privilege to not know us. To know us is a bonus. For us to know you is survival.
Thank you. And so in the last few minutes, I just wanted to talk about a little bit of the principles, and I wanted to thank our colleague Thor, who's on here, Thor Morales, for creating that video for all of us, and capturing Juneteenth. When we first decided to do this, we know that these spaces are potential for violence, and we've seen a lot of the uprisings. You know, there's a lot of anger. And we felt like we could hold a space that doesn't have to shy away from anger, but actually be able to transform it. In a way, if you think about Aikido, that, you know, Aikido, it really responds to any kind of force. And so you need some kind of velocity to transform it. In the same way, this anger can be transformed into something beautiful. It's an energy force. And so with the migrant caravan, with Black Lives Matter, we saw the same kind of energy force where people wanted a way to express themselves. We really looked at some principles we have as centering people that are impacted. So that means that we take a back seat. We really facilitate and create a space for people that to self-express. And that's based on an idea that our intangible human needs, like self-expression and belonging and community, and challenge and resistance, all of that are as important as our tangible human needs, like food, water, shelter. And so we saw early on that when we come and we provide a space where intangible human needs are met, the same way somebody maybe will do a soup kitchen where they serve a meal, we're serving a space where resilience can be formed, and maybe it'll take them one more day forward. Maybe it could be life transforming. I've had one conversation that changed my life. And so as we were doing this, many people came up to us and said, man, this was so important. This is really beautiful. This was really amazing. And one thing is that it also was a catalyst. So it brought people to us, as opposed to us trying to do some kind of outreach. People came to us. And so we saw thousands of people the 3 days that we were there, 2 weeks apart each time. And so here, we were there a day, and it's in the United States, so things are a little complex. They're race related, and it's really kind of new and bubbling up. And so it was an interesting thing to bring it here. When we did it with the migrant caravan, I think we learned a few things that were really powerful that we're still learning here. We're still seeing again, but that many times people are going to try on a new part of themselves if they're given a chance. And so they're gonna, when we say it's a brave space, when we're giving people, when people have the opportunity to take up maybe a facilitator role, or a dance party leader, or a DJ, or a drummer, right? So we had a drum circle, and we just brought out drums, and we made a very explicit invitation for Black people to come up and do drumming. And we really left those and reserved those for those. So we wanted to create a healing space. We were led by Black leaders there. We really did calls and some research before we even did it, and we got their buy-in, and then together we led it. And so it's really important that we're not just skipping in and coming in and parachuting and doing our thing and then leaving, that this is a thread. And being local was amazing, because during COVID, we can't pretty much do anything. And so what an opportunity to be able to be in our own communities. Some people rode 10-minute bike ride to Black Lives Matter Plaza. And then to be able to leave things, our art in the place, I think was also a remnant. So again, this thread of resilience that we were able to thread, and we still are. And so I really feel like it's a tactic for sure, but it's a tactic based on a strategy that people that are personally experiencing violence, oppression, that there's a way to facilitate a process for them to be able to be centered and to be able to express joy and anger in a space and not be afraid of that. As you can see through the video, we did a question. So we did a really, I would say, really hard question, right? How has white supremacy impacted you? And the other question is, what are you going to do to dismantle it? And we got hundreds of posts, hundreds of labels filled out that we've been sharing on social media at Plus Peace. And it's been really a powerful discussion and conversation, because I think many people are not linking, how we're giving up something to get something that we want more, which is community and belonging. And so we want to give up privilege for community and belonging and equity and justice. So it's been a real pleasure to be part of this work. And thank you so much for Peace Direct for coming out, always supporting first people to support and being part of it. And I'd love to answer any questions and see, how we can collaborate together.
Thank you so much, Monica. I'll just say that your leadership has been really, really important, and it has been a really beautiful way that you have helped bring peace building and locally led peace building into the racial justice movement, and build that bridge so that people understand the critical importance of how we do all this work together. And we had a memorable bike ride down to one of the first activations.
I survived.
And it was very moving, and it's an honor to be part of it and to accompany this work however we can. So thank you so much. I want to invite people to think about questions for Monica that you might have about what you've seen and heard, and put those into the Q&A box while I go through the rest of the updates, so that at the end we'll come back for all of our Q&A and discussion. So please feel free to start formulating your questions and put them. There's a little bubble at the bottom of your screen that should say Q&A. So feel free to put questions in there for Monica, and then other ones for us as we run through the rest of our updates. So Christine, do you want to pull back the presentation and also put up the slide to introduce our summer interns? Great. So we are thrilled to have here with us. You will be able to hear them. We are still sorting out this technology of how we can make the Zoom work for us best. But you will hear our new interns who are here with us for the summer introduce themselves. And you see their pictures there on the screen and their names. And I just want to invite, I think Amber will go first to kick off the introductions to say hello and just a word about who you are and what you're doing with us.
Hey everyone, I'm Amber. I am interning at Peace Direct, and I am also a sophomore global affairs student at George Mason University. And Annie can't be here with us tonight, unfortunately, so I'm going to introduce her. She is a student at Barnard College in New York studying political science and human rights, and she is working on organizing a platform for dialogue at Peace Direct.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fabiola Shipley. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Notre Dame, and I'm interning at Peace Direct. My official title is a peace building policy intern, and I'm mainly working on advocacy surrounding the Youth, Peace, and Security Act of 2020 in US Congress.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sahar Omer. I am also lucky to be one of the summer interns for Peace Direct, and I'm very thrilled that I've gotten this opportunity. I'm a recent graduate from Harvard University, where I studied government and Near Eastern languages and civilizations. For the summer, most of my work is surrounding the Global Peacebuilding Act, where I'm working on advocacy and support to have this legislation passed through US Congress. So thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you all. We're so thrilled to have these fabulous young women with us this summer who are really taking a lot of our work to the next level. So thank you so much. Christine, you want to go ahead and we'll run through the rest of the slides and then come back for some Q&A and discussion. Great. So just to follow on some quick updates, you may have heard some of these from last time, but we want to keep you updated on the work that we're doing. We did launch in response to needs expressed by local peace builders around the world following the COVID outbreaks that there was a need for more digital support. So we launched with Conducive Space for Peace and Humanity United, a digital inclusion fund. And you can see some of the details on your screen there. We've been receiving hundreds of applications from around the world for small grants to support basic digital inclusion so that peace builders can keep doing their work. And we've given out about over 80 grants now, and they keep coming. And we've just received another grant from a US foundation to extend the fund. So we will be adding another $50,000 on top of the $100,000 that we're giving out through this fund to support local peace builders around the world. So there's information on that on our website, and please spread the word if you know peace builders around the world who need it. Technology and peace building is the theme of the year for 2020. I think we mentioned last time. And just to update you on our Peace Direct Awards, this is our annual awards. And this year, the theme is technology and peace building. We're very happy that we have found our first corporate sponsor. Small tech company in Cincinnati, Ohio is supporting the Peace Direct Awards with our first sponsorship, which is fabulous. And we had around 200 applications, and the review process is underway to select that one winner who will receive a $10,000 grant to carry on their work, and will also be part of an awards ceremony to help profile and promote them. We also have completed a report, which will be launched soon, from a consultation online globally with peace builders around the world about the role of technology in peace building. And it really is, I think, going to be a very valuable resource right now. We will be circulating it very soon, so keep an eye out for it. And it really talks about how tech, while it can be both a source of fueling conflict or building peace, how right now in COVID, peace builders are also really finding innovative ways to utilize technology to help build peace and push back against closing space for civil society. So really interesting research there. Our advocacy work is a big part of the work of the US office, and we work both on shifting policies at the UN and also here in Washington with the US government. There has been an online consultation in collaboration with the UN and local peace builders around the world, looking at how the UN can better engage with local peace builders. And Gay Rosenblum Kumar, our UN representative, who I think is with us tonight, she's working with the UN to help make sure that what comes out of that gets implemented, and we can help push the UN to work better with local communities. We also did a consultation just recently on a new bill that passed the Congress here in Washington last year called the US Global Fragility Act. And that was a project in collaboration with the Alliance for Peace Building, where we convened a consultation and then have just issued a report. It's up on our website, fresh. I think Larissa might have put it up just today or yesterday. And so please take a look at that too. It's about what local peace builders think the US government should do to better prevent violent conflict as it implements this new legislation. And then finally, our colleague Vahe is helping lead a coalition in support of youth and peace building. And one of the key pillars of that is new legislation, bipartisan, that continues to gain support, called the Youth and Peace and Security Act. So we will be sure to keep you updated on that. And all of our interns who are in different places around the country are writing op-eds for their local papers about why more support is needed for youth as leaders in peace building. So they're doing great work for us on that issue. And finally, we talked before about how we've really been looking at our role here in the US and how we can help support local peace builders around the US. We've talked before, I think, about our mapping that you can find on peaceinsight.org of peace building in the US. We're continuing to expand that, doing outreach to these groups, and are now organizing the first consultation online with local peace and justice groups around the United States on the intersection between peace building and racial justice. That's work that our interns are leading, and it will, the consultation will be happening later this summer, and we'll keep you updated, and I'm sure we'll probably be issuing a report afterwards as well, but would love for folks to join that consultation when it happens. We've continued to look at how we're going to be developing our support and work with local peace builders here in the US. What is our role? How do we help strengthen the peace building capacities here in the US? How are we doing that in a locally led way, as Peace Direct's, all of Peace Direct's work tries to be, and looking at how we can identify resources and begin fundraising for dedicated work on that. We're very happy that we've been that we will be hosting our first Scoville Fellow. This is a fellowship program here in Washington, D.C., where we will have a 9-month paid staff person, a wonderful young woman named Shannon Page, who joins us in mid-August. And she will be working in a focused way on developing our US peace building programming, and also some of the other policy and research work around US policy. So we'll be very happy. She'll be on the next Inside Peace Direct call to talk to you more about that. So I think now we are at Q&A. And I'm going to turn it back to John to lead the Q&A.
Great. Yeah, some good questions. So the first one, Monica, is for you. And it's, can you tell us a little bit more about making space and how you first got interested in the idea of taking a back seat?
Well, I'm the youngest of 11 children. And so I pretty much always took a back seat. I was like always trying to get to the front. Yeah, but that was like the norm. We always like went in ages who got the front seat. But I think that there's a principle there of centering and respecting people that are most honored in that space. right? So I'm Romanian. So for us, you know, an elderly person or a person that's older than you is more honored than you. And I think it's the same concept that in a space that, you know, I'm not necessarily, we came as refugees, but I'm not a migrant coming from El Salvador. I'm not, I mean, believe it or not, I'm not Black. You know, there's a lot of parts to my identity that's not shared with people that, you know, for each issue. And so we believe that people that uh, can name the world or can really define the problems and shape kind of what the solution will be are the people that are directly impacted. They should be the ones doing that. And so that is really the process. And so really I see this peace activations as a co-creation space. And so who should create solutions for their own issues? People that are experiencing them, because they know, maybe I have knowledge in my head, but I don't know what that feeling is like. I don't know how it impacted their families. I don't have the generational trauma. I don't have the daily trauma. And so it's the same concept that we would do in a workshop, we would do out in the open spaces, that we center people that are directly impacted by that issue. And I think it's actually a good practice in life. One of my mentors said, if you wanted applause, you should have joined the circus. You know, you don't join peace building. And I think as peace builders, we really should be looking to center others and to shine, you know, carry a big spotlight and shine it on each other as a practice. Because I think that's how you really build peace, is really bringing inclusion and belonging to others, and then it comes back to you.
Thanks. Yeah. And I went to one of the activations, Monica. I must say it was incredibly inspiring, and it was beautiful to see you make space and to see people engage and really come out of their shells and self-express. So the next question is, how did you, and this is another one for you, Monica. So how did you get involved in your work on the border, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, so I 25 years ago, I actually worked in an orphanage in Mexico for a few years. I went from graduated high school and just drove straight down the next day. I was a very passionate young person about change. And actually, my time in Mexico started even earlier. As a child, we used to go with my church and like give food out in the city dump of Tijuana. And so what happened after is we were asked by our organization, a local organization in Tijuana. I was based in Southern California, and we were asked for some conflict transformation courses, or transformative leadership as we called it. And they were based in Tijuana, and so they just wanted it for their staff. The group was called Corazon, and so we led a workshop for their staff, and they were so they loved it, because who doesn't love peace building when you get close to it? We have these experiential, really powerful workshop on transformative leadership, and they were applying. They had applied 4 years in a row to a Rotary International grant, and the year we applied with them to bring this to the community, they got it. And so for the next year, we worked in Tijuana. We were really embedded in the community. We did for a year. We worked and trained 1,000 women in 8 communities. So we were already embedded, and I think that's really an important part of this work is having relationships and being invited to the space. So there was no parachuting in. Every space we've ever been in, there's been an invitation, and we were led by people locally impacted. And so what we basically went when the Honduran caravan went down in April of 2018 to the border. We just went to go see our friends, and we always were doing some kind of creative thing. So I what is contrabanded? I contrabanded a bunch of Home Depot flowers, and there's a garden at the border. And so we basically planted flowers. We invited the Honduran children that had just come the thousands of miles to plant in the garden, the community garden right on the border. It's called in Friendship Park. And so it was the idea of like, even if you get the, even if nothing works out, you left something here. There's something that's going to grow here in your place, that it wasn't for nothing. And then they all went down and tried to claim asylum. And that's when suddenly ICE had no space, and there was a lot of drama that if you saw in the news, people were left there for a week or for 2 weeks, a month, I think. And so we said, well, we have to do something. So we just quickly banded, and we said, let's bring art. And so 8 of us went down, and we brought canvases, and we started painting, and it was raining. And so we just laid out canvases. And as soon as we got there, and this is kind of speaks to this space, as soon as we got there, the police and, the official leaders wanted to push us, corral us behind the gates into where everybody had their tents. And we're like, no, we're going to be here in the middle. And they're like, no, go over there. And we're like, no, we're going to be here. Yeah, we're going to be right here. And they're like, no. I'm like, hey, how about this? We're going to dance today. Like, we'll be here. You push us out when it doesn't work. And then we'll move, don't worry. You just push us whenever we don't, when we're bothering people. And as they saw like all the children painting and playing and like the joy and the music, then the police became our biggest supporters. They're like, hey, get off. Hey, these are kids playing. Get out of here. They became our defenders. And we saw that time and time again that people saw really quickly how transformative the space was. And I mean, just in that space, we saw so many different things. Like one woman was sitting there with her like 1-year-old and 3-year-old just climbing all over. And she was painting for like 2-3 hours of some flowers. And we talked to her and she said that she had painted nails in Honduras. And this was the first time she could paint again and kind of like get grounded and return to herself. And we saw that with art time and time again. And one story is there was and I hope I can find this because it's somewhere in my basement, but there's a beautiful canvas of a butterfly and it was gorgeous. A father and a daughter painted it together. And then it started raining. And literally everybody was like, all of their art literally was getting erased from the rain. And then this particular butterfly actually became more beautiful in the rain. And we really saw that through a lot of the suffering, that these people became much more beautiful with their resilience. And so this was like a symbol for us that even if it rains, that we'll you still keep going and beauty comes out of it. And so we went to the border. And then when the family separations happened, we were invited by a local person from McAllen, Texas. And we went there and it was like Ellis Island. It was crazy. And every night we went to Catholic Charities for 10 days. And we did these programs. And the same thing, Catholic Charities didn't want us there. And then they were like defending us. So it was always the same kind of cycle where people are like, oh, another art program. But they saw it wasn't an art program. It was really us bringing these ingredients for joy. And then Mexico City, again, over and over again, it was like an invitation, us being willing to take it and take an opportunity, and then finding a real creative way. And with the migrant caravan in Mexico City, we brought masks last summer. So we did one that was called Migrant Masks. And our prompt, where this prompt here in the United States was how white supremacy has impacted your life. Our prompt there was, what are some secrets, or not secrets, but some truths that you hold that actually protect you? And so we invited people to paint the masks, and then tell their stories with their face covered, but their truths on their masks. But they were just drawing, so none of us knew. So their identity was covered, but all their truths are out. And so just trying to kind of flip the script of our truth is actually protect us. And it was just really beautiful how people responded and how kids, found a way to express themselves at their level, and then adults found their way at their level. But we always, kind of the art and the music and everything, we always start with the children because that's the first thing, and the parents are, they're really, and then soon enough the parents get involved, and then for them it's like life transforming, where they're like, what can we do? We want to be part of this. Where could we go? What can we do more? Because it really meets this human need. Can I tell one more story?
Sure.
Okay. So in Mexico City, we wanted it. Our idea was to go there, and it was in November of 2018 when the big Honduran caravan was in Mexico City, and then the El Salvadorian caravan, so the 5,000 and then around 2,500 from El Salvador was in Mexico City. So the Hondurans just left, Salvadorians just came, and by came I mean like in that stadium in Mexico City. So it's like thousands of people. And we came and we were invited by, actually Bridget introduced us to Jill Anderson, who introduced us to Padre Solalinde, who was the government's envoy to the migrants at that point. And so we connected with really the top people that invited us in and introduced us to the migrants, which was crazy, right? So they're like, you guys got to work with these people. They're amazing. I mean, you didn't even know us, but we got there. So we basically we went with a caravan a few places. So they moved from the stadium into, it's called Casa Pellegrino, which is with the basilica. Maybe if you ever do a pilgrimage to Mexico, you'll stay there. So there was like 2,000 Salvadorian migrants staying there, waiting to be moved around to the next place, basically. And there was a fight. Everybody was like split up in rooms, and the room we were in, there was like basically a fight broke out between two women, and they were like at it, like. And we had partnered with Sojourners, they're a faith-based social justice organization, and so we like were seeing this fight. And so basically Sandy from Sojourners, she like took, you know, one person aside and I took the other person outside, and we started, you know, doing peace building and, you know, asked like what's going on and kind of help de-escalate and calm everybody down. And the person that I calmed down was really the aggressor. She had been in prison. She was LGBTQ and felt like really like you know, like ignored and put down in the caravan for that. And so she was really ready to fight. So we talked and she just like calmed down. And then she's like, because we bring these big stereo, right? So with the microphone. So then she's like, do you guys do karaoke? And like, we never did karaoke. I'm like, hell yes. Yes, we do karaoke, as a matter of fact. And I have my iPad everywhere. So we had my iPad and karaoke, and we just like thought quick. And we went to the bottom of this, so imagine like four stories where everybody's hanging around on the rails, and it's really small. It's like maybe 100 square feet. It's really a small like building, and everybody's hanging out. And so she started leading karaoke, and she went from being she was a troublemaker. She went from being a troublemaker to being like the show woman, and really just led everybody for the next 4 hours in karaoke and facilitated it and sang, and she had an amazing voice. And she had done karaoke at her home. And so it was like people tried on a new personality for size. So I think this opportunity of shifting from, again, violence to nonviolence. And then when she actually got to Tijuana, she kept doing karaoke. I became her Facebook friend. And so she like brought people to karaoke and did karaoke all the time. So I think it was like tapping into the assets, what we have in the community. I mean, these people were sleeping on the floor, had nothing to offer, yet they were like amazing, right? So we just saw the time again with artists, like real artists that were doing amazing art. And it was just a real time. I always said, like, for people to return back to themselves. You lose so much on the road, and now you return to yourself. Thank you. Sorry, that was long.
No, that's amazing. Oh my God, I want to meet this karaoke singer. I need to see a video.
Yeah, there's a lot of videos.
You're going to need to send it to all the attendees now.
Yeah.
In any case, so I just want to also let everybody know, you're welcome to actually ask a question. We can turn your microphone on. So if anybody has a question right now, you can raise your hand. If not, all good. We have a couple of other questions as well.
Or also a comment. If you want to comment and share something that, you know, from your own life or work, please feel free.
Any karaoke stories? In any case, so I will move on to the next question. Actually, the next question, Bridget, has to do with the Global Fragility Act. And so obviously Peace Direct has been working on the Global Fragility Act for some time, as have a lot of our other colleague organizations. And the question is around, can you tell us about progress that's being made on GFA?
Great, thank you for the question. Yes, so we have been working on the Global Fragility Act for a while, and it passed Congress last year. And what it does is essentially require the US government to develop a strategy, a comprehensive strategy across all agencies of the US government to help prevent violent conflict and reduce fragility in key places around the world. So, so the role that we have played in this is to really try to inform the whole process from, you know, when it was being formed as legislation to now the process where it will be implemented. And there's a lot of work within the US government now to implement it, to inform that process, to ensure that local peace builders and the work of local peace building is at the center and forefront of the US government's thinking when it thinks, oh, we're supposed to have a strategy to prevent violence and reduce fragility. They should be thinking, how do we support local peace builders? Because they're the ones who will be best placed to prevent violent conflict and build resilient societies, and they will be there for the long term. So in line with Peace Direct's ethos and work, we don't believe intervening from the outside to build peace is what works. We really believe locally led approaches. So how can we help inform this whole process? So the update now is that we have held a consultation to try to inform the implementation stage with the perspectives of local peace builders. And local peace builders had a lot to say. We wrote a report, I think it was in the chat box earlier, Vahe might have put it in there earlier, and it's online, about what we found through that process. And we just briefed about 20 people from the State Department and USAID who are right now working on the implementation and developing a strategy that they have to deliver to Congress in December. And so we had an online briefing with them about what local peace builders think the US government should do in this process and how they can better support local peace builders through the Global Fragility Act implementation. And it was very good. I think there are some good allies within the US government. There are some problems and challenges. It was just released this week that there's a new political appointee going to head the new bureau in USAID, which will be responsible for conflict and peace building issues. And it is not anyone with any experience. It's actually someone from the military, and it's very concerning because there's a very good team there. So there'll be a lot of work to do in terms of how this legislation gets implemented and ensuring that local perspectives and local peace builders are in the center of it. But we've been encouraged that the work of the response we've gotten has been encouraging, that yes, people recognize there needs to be a locally led approach to this. So that's the latest. I'm happy to provide the next update on the next call.
Great, okay. And we have one more question for you, Bridget. So in regards to the Digital Inclusion Fund, what are some examples of the types of resources or purchases that these organizations or people are making when they get funding?
Great question. So this is really for your basic digital inclusion needs. If you think about people who are in conflict affected areas around the world, whether that's the Kivus in DRC or Northwest Pakistan or Northeast Nigeria, they are places where, everybody doesn't have a smartphone and a laptop that they can just go home to when suddenly the whole world shuts down and goes digital. And so a lot of times it's very basic needs. There was a woman today that actually we were on a call with, and she pinged me in the chat box, and because I was talking about the fund, and she said, she was from West Africa, and she said, I applied. I haven't heard back yet. As I said, we have a lot of applications. And she said, I haven't heard back yet. And I said, oh, I'll let them know, we're processing everything. And she said, yeah, my phone got stolen by the armed group, and I need a new phone to keep doing my peace building work. So, real basic things sometimes. We've had a lot of people who just need a laptop to work from home, or they need a phone, or they need cell phone credit. They need to purchase airtime essentially, so that they can keep up their work. So those have been really, the majority is quite basic, and so that's why that's what it's intended to be, sort of very fast, small grants that we are responding to the immediate situation with. We are now starting to think about whether what we do beyond the current state, which has been emergency response with COVID, because we are entering a new normal. And so what does it mean to support digital inclusion 6 months from now? And do we continue this, and who do we partner with, and how do we sort of maximize the support that we can provide?
All right, so that's it for questions. And just want to give a shout out to Monica for joining us tonight, and Bridget. And then Christine, can you pull up the last slide? Awesome. So once again, just want to thank everybody for joining us. Really grateful that you're here tonight. Ways to get involved with Peace Direct. And also Plus Peace. So you can follow us and Plus Peace on social media, Facebook, IG, and Twitter. The other thing is, if you're interested in getting involved in one of Plus Peace's peace activations, feel free to reach out to them and go to their website too. The next thing I wanted to mention is join us for our next installment of #Peace Talks. The speaker is to be determined. That's taking place on Peace Day, September 21st at Eaton Workshop in Washington, D.C. And also happy to note that it will be live streamed as well. So you can join from the comfort of your own home. The next thing is, please remember, on the policy front, urge your members of Congress to support the Youth, Peace, and Security Act of 2020. And last thing, on a fundraising note, we have a summer appeal, so you might see an email coming from us in the next week or so. And we'd love it if you consider becoming a monthly donor. So once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're grateful to have you here and wishing you all the best. Thanks.